pero soy aquí, hemos venido aquí por el One Young World. Más o menos 1500 jóvenes que se han reunido aquí desde hace una semana, viernes hasta sábado, para discutir un poco cómo podemos cambiar el mundo en un sentido mejor, sobre todo sentido sostenible, sentido más equitable, y de asegurar que todo el mundo va a ser incluido en el proceso de progreso que quieres del mundo entero. Son los Sustainable Development Goals, más o menos, ustedes lo conocen, los 17 Sustainable Development Goals, para asegurar que no hay pobreza y hay una oportunidad para todo el mundo, también aquí en Colombia, y es verdad también en todos los otros países del mundo ahora. Yo soy muy feliz de disfrutar este lunes por la mañana. Yo voy a salir a las 11 por Perú, pero yo he decidido de estar aquí por el fin de semana exactamente por esa reunión, pero es muy importante para Colombia, pero yo creo también muy importante para muchos otros países en el mundo entero. Voy a hacer mi charla en inglés por un poco más fácil para mí, es solamente mi tercer día aquí y no he practicado mucho el español. Y mi mujer es inglés y no quiere que yo hable español con él en casa. Yo no puedo practicar tanto como ustedes lo hacen. Pero podemos hacer la discusión de todas las cosas en español si quieres. So the most important thing that we really have to frame a little bit is why we're doing this, why Colombia is important, and what the desired outcome is that we're really trying to achieve. And feel free to start eating as well, by the way. But the first thing to do is really thank Claudia, who has done a tremendous job pulling this all together, and actually is part of the coalition already for food, and then was here in Colombia, and Johan was just be very eloquently explaining in a modest way what Norway is doing. But Norway is an incredible force in terms of driving a sustainable agenda forward, not only in providing funding like they've done here, in many other places across the world, but also setting up new innovative financing schemes, for example, and actually using their greatest asset, which is not only their people, may I say, but also actually the enormous wealth that they've created with their investment fund to start to decarbonize the global economy. So in many of these areas, if I had a choice to come back in the next world, Norway would be high on the priority, and so would be Colombia. In Colombia, you've done quite a lot of things, and that's why I like the country and I like coming here, because already in Rio, when we were all there, it was actually Colombia. Some of you might know, some of you might not, that was the biggest initiator of the Sustainable Development Goals. Everybody was talking in those days about the Millennial Development Goals finishing, but nobody was really thinking about what comes after that. And you can imagine, with 195 countries around the world, what discussion that would be. And Colombia, to your credit, was the first country that said, we need goals for the next 15 years, and they need to include the aspect of sustainability, not surprisingly. You also were one of the most active countries in Paris when we were all working for the COP21 and trying to get an agreement that, although not enough where we are, is certainly more ambitious than anybody thought was possible at that time. And momentum is really being created, and you are part of that. Then, obviously, all the initiatives that we are working on in terms of deforestation, you've been a great part of that, with the Tropical Forest Alliance and Nutrition for Agriculture, and many other things. And I actually like your environmental defense fund you created. And in a meeting I had this weekend with your president, the carbon tax you've implemented. Mr. President, about something very excitingly last Friday, where your revenues of your sustainable fund is about 200 million that you kept in because of carbon tax. You will generate about $200 million a year because of carbon tax. What if we would use 100 million of that to create a blended financing bond, where the 100 million that you every year collect from your carbon tax would serve to de-risk. You will be able to attract easily $1 billion from the public sector. So you're leveraging up by a factor of 10 as a minimum. And then you have a fund, the Green Climate Fund itself in Colombia, where you then need to get the projects against specific projects, land intensification, livelihood projects for indigenous people, especially in the zones where you need the peace and job creation. That could draw from that fund. It's a tremendously original idea and tremendously powerful. I hope that we can work out something for the meeting that Macron has called in December, March 12th, where Colombia can show that this can be done and where the global community, especially the financial community, is willing to invest behind it. We certainly are. With Norway, we created, with Erna Solberg, the very highly regarded Norwegian Prime Minister, who just got re-elected again. We created a fund. Norway put in 150 million. We put in ourselves 25 million. We've now upped that with another 25 million. We think we can get that fund to 500 million or 1 billion to do blended financing as well. And we just did one in Indonesia to help the smallholder farmers as well. The task force globally on cities to drive that forward. You're all familiar with the coalition of mayors of cities, Bogota and Rio and all the other things, is being led by Andrew Steer, who actually runs the World Resource Institute in Washington. I have the honor to lead the food and land use system. Jeroen, welcome. The Dutch ambassador is here, and since I have a Dutch passport, I need to always welcome him. The good thing is I could get all the bad things about the Dutch out of the way before he shows up.
Dutch can't be late.
Sit down. And so we have the cities, and then we have the food and land use system, where we really are going to see if we can bring all the parties together across the value chain to be more efficient. In fact, we have brought 30 organizations together on the global level. Organizations like the World Economic Forum, organizations like the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, the EAT Forum, the World Resource Institute, and obviously governments present here and many others. Objective is very simple. How do you produce food for 9 billion people? Because that's what we have to do. Second, how do you do that sustainably? And third, how to create jobs and livelihoods for 500 million smallholder farmers in our value chain. 3 very simple objectives, but absolutely needed. And then we need to look at what we can do to move that forward. And one of the first things we obviously have to do is to be sure that everything is to serve the person on the ground. These are bottom up as well as top down, but bottom up, in my opinion, would be the majority of where we have to spend our energy and efforts. Hence, why it's so important and what you do here in Colombia on the ground. These targets have to be, as I mentioned, longer term science-based targets. We don't want to have a lot of discussions about things that are our opinions. I think we really need to get the facts. And one of the things you need to do in Colombia, also be sure that you have the political and economic analysis to support that. You have a tremendous commitment from the government here that is obviously there with the different ministers, Minister Pardo, Murillo, and many others that are absolutely passionate about that behind it, as well as the president. But 6 months go fast and you'll have a new government. You need to be sure that the science carries on, irrespective of your political changes, and that the policies that go behind that is important as well. So my third point is figure out what the required policy reforms are. Because in many countries, the people have the best intentions in terms of achieving the desired outcomes, but unknowingly sometimes their own policies go against them. And we see the same in the food and land use system, where sometimes the government policies work against the objectives that they set to achieve it. And then the most important part at the end of the day, I hope that you will be able to invent a investment portfolio where you come out with specific projects and specific investment opportunities that we can rally the world behind. Sometimes local companies, sometimes international companies, sometimes coalitions. And it's really these investment proposals that are ultimately going to decide how successful you're going to be. I'll give you one small example that I talked with the president myself. It is to me unacceptable that a country like Colombia, with all its richness, its intellectual power, its educated people, for example, has to import tomatoes in high qualities for the products. One of our products here It's frugal. If you haven't tried it yet, highly recommend it. It's my only advertising in my talk. But we import these tomatoes from Chile. There's nothing wrong with Chile, obviously, but it doesn't make sense. Why can't we bring it here? Why can't we put it in areas where the farm needs to be reintegrated? Why can't we do that in the rural areas where we need to have peace? Well, there are many reasons why we can't do it. That's why you put coalitions together. You put coalitions together of people that can figure out how to make the right seeds. Companies like Syngenta, whoever it is. You put companies together that are in the business of tomatoes. You have a lot of investors here, like Dutch investors putting flowers out here, like you wouldn't believe it. Why can't we do the same and bring in the knowledge of how you make it most competitive? And then you have financing, and you have companies like ours guaranteeing a value chain. And together, I think you can solve that. Certainly for me, one of the least complex problems that we need to solve. That's the essence of what we're trying to do here with the fruit and land use system. I won't take much more time, but what we have done globally is we are saying no. In order to move things forward, we are going to focus on a few countries because we can't do everything. And we're going to focus on a few countries where the countries are committed, where we have the ministers that are behind it, where the president is supportive, where the resources are, where the local industry participates. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for all of us. I'd rather than put my energy in other places where I can get the results. We have Indonesia that have signed up. President Jokowi, Sri Mulyani, and many others. We have Ethiopia signed up. We have actually Uganda signed up. And with the discussions now with the president and many of you, I also hope that we can now firmly sign up Colombia as part of this effort. The benefit is very clear. You'll create a more prosperous society in Colombia, and you especially still need it. The benefit for me goes beyond that, because I really want to use fairly quickly the great work that you're going to do here to amplify what we can do in other parts of the world. So your success in Colombia certainly is your success here for the people of Colombia that you want to celebrate. But for me also, it is absolutely crucial to accelerate the progress that we need to make in other places in the world. So by doing this, by participating in this together, you not only strengthen your own country, but you work for the citizens of the world. And we had an astronaut at One Young World who presented when he went into space and saw the blue planet from a distance. He very passionately shared with us that he didn't see any lights. He didn't see which land was whose. What he saw was one blue planet and its interdependence and the need for all of us to take care of it. So Colombia continuing to set the standards will be something that I'd be very proud of. Thanks. I look forward to the discussion, and more than that, I look forward to your specific commitment and the action steps coming out of this. Thank you very much.